Hey there guys, John Campea here. Thank you for visiting my movie vlog as I give you my quick review of the brand new 35 years later Blade Runner 2049. I'm going to tell you right up front, I like the movie. Out of no or go, I'm going to give it a positive review. But that being said, I didn't love it. Now, I've made the decision here to tell you a minor spoiler about the movie. Now, it is something they reveal to you as an audience member right away. It's like one of the first things you find out in the movie once the movie starts, but it isn't something they tell you in the marketing, so this could be considered a minor spoiler, but believe me when I tell you, they tell you this right at the beginning of the movie. Here it is to understand. Okay, so Ryan Gosling is himself a replicant, an artificial human being who is employed by the police department as a Blade Runner. He has the same job that Harrison Ford had in the original Blade Runner. A Blade Runner's job is to hunt down replicants. Now, there are legal replicants now in this world, but his job is to hunt down and chase down and retire, which means kill, older model replicants who are still out there in the world hiding away. While on one of his cases and on one of his missions, Ryan Gosling accidentally stumbles across a piece of information, a piece of secret information that if it got found out could disrupt everything. As Robin Wright says in the trailer, it could break the world. First of all, the thing I liked most about this movie isn't even the visuals, and I'll talk about the visuals in a second, but it's the premise. This mystery that I can't talk much about, but this mystery that Ryan Gosling unfolds and reveals and discovers is brilliant. I found myself, the more and more I got into the movie, that I was just loving the premise, the underlying basic story of what this movie is about and what it is that Ryan Gosling is pursuing. I thought it was really clever, and the way it was unfolded by Denis Villeneuve, the director of the film, was wonderfully done. And so while you're going to hear most people out there talk about the amazing visuals of Blade Runner 2049, and they are great, and I'll talk about those in a second, to me, the real strength of this movie is its underlying basic premise. Its general story I thought was very sharp. So let's talk for a second about the visuals. The visuals in this movie are incredible. I'm not even just talking about the visual effects, but just the art design, the visual aesthetic of the movie is so enrapturing and it draws you into this world. You know, a lot of people are giving like a lot, if not all the credit to Deakins, the cinematographer, and he deserves a whole lot of credit, but the art department on this thing, the art design, the set design, everything from the types of clothes that they're wearing to the big massive visual effects was interwoven and sewn together so beautifully that it created, at least visually, this very coherent world. A world which, by the way, is incredibly consistent in feel and tone with a 35-year-old movie, the original Blade Runner. How they pulled that off and yet make it feel like it's a modern telling of the story all at the same time, from a visual point of view, it is one of the most impressive films you're going to see this year. Also, I really like the performances in the film. I don't think there was a weak one in the whole bunch, but I do want to focus on two in particular. One was Ryan Gosling as the lead. Obviously, as the lead, if he doesn't work, the movie doesn't work. Once again, he's playing a replicant who's also the hero of the story, and the way he was faithful to what his character is and was, and yet made an engaging performance at all in the first place, almost like a human character, was really impressive. Again, if Ryan Gosling doesn't work in this role as well as he does, I think the whole movie falls apart. Also, one of the smaller supporting roles, Jared Leto was fantastic. I loved his character. He played his character with such deep emotion that was always hidden. He played it with a subtle depth that was just fantastic. So I was actually eating up every single scene that Jared Leto was on screen. All right, so let me talk a little bit about the things I didn't like about this movie. Look, length of a movie is always a very tricky discussion. Some movies, by their nature, really need to be 2.5 hours, 3 hours plus or more. Some movies, by their nature, really should be around the hour and a half, maybe a little bit north of that mark. Blade Runner 2043 comes in about 2 hours and 43 minutes, and it is too long. For this movie's optimal running time was not 2 hours and 43 minutes. Honestly, it was probably around the 2.5 or less. Maybe they could have cut a good solid 20 minutes of this film out, and I think it would have felt a little bit tighter, and it would have improved the feel of the pace. Slow movies are great, but slow movies even have to have some pace to them. One of the other things that I really felt was missing from this film, now, most people know I'm not a big fan of the original Blade Runner. I'm one of the only people on the planet who's not a big fan of the original Blade Runner, but one of the things that the original Blade Runner did really well, a lot better than Blade Runner 2049, is that it delves into the philosophical questions about what does it mean for humanity to have these replicants, and it goes deep into that. When you get into Blade Runner 2049, it really kind of abandons those questions. There's a few allusions to them here and there, but really it doesn't go much into it all. Also, this movie really didn't give me any sense of scale. This didn't feel like a worldwide issue. Once again, going back to that quote that we hear in the trailers from Robin Wright, this secret that's in the movie could, as Robin Wright says, break the world. But although I got a really good sense for what this world looked like from an aesthetic point of view, I never got any sense of the world itself. We never see any people. We never get a sense of the culture. It's hard to feel the stakes of the world being at stake when you have no idea really what this world is about. There's like a food court scene and this one little factory scene where you see some people, but for the most part, you never get any sense of the world that this entire movie and story takes place in. And when you don't have a sense of the world that it takes place in, it's hard to feel the stakes. And this one is just a minor little nitpick, but it really started to annoy me. There were far too many scenes in this movie that took place in rooms with major echo on all the dialogue. There are huge chunks of scenes where the characters are speaking in incredibly echoey rooms, and that just started to irritate me a little bit. Again, it's a minor quibble, but it did start to irritate me a lot. And I'm going to use a phrase here that I admittedly stole from another critic. I saw a critic say this, and it really does highlight what I felt coming out of the movie. Going with the heavy themes of all the aesthetics of the movie, Blade Runner 2049 has a lot of mood. There is heavy mood in the film. Absolutely. Lots of great mood. But where it has a lot of mood, it doesn't actually have a lot of emotion. It never got me emotionally attached or invested in anything. And you could make the very legitimate argument that maybe it wasn't supposed to, because of course we are dealing with replicants. I get that. But if you had some authentic emotion in the film, and Denis Villeneuve is great at putting authentic emotion. Go see Prisoners if you haven't seen Prisoners. But for whatever reason, they opted not to do that. So yeah, that's a phrase that stuck in my head a lot. 2049 is heavy on mood, light on emotion. Oh, and I almost forgot Harrison Ford. Yeah, Harrison Ford as Deckard is back. His character is very pivotal, very important. Adjust your expectations. He's not in the movie a whole ton, so just to adjust your expectations a little bit. But when he is in it, he's great, very consistent with the Deckard we knew from the last Blade Runner, and he plays a very important part. Big question is, though, have you had a chance to see Blade Runner 2049 yet? If so, what did you think? All films subjective. I want to know what your experiences with the movie were. Jump into the comments section below and leave me your thoughts. Listen, guys, while you're here, take a second, click on the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me, and until the next video, bye-bye.